Hi, I'm here with Gibbons, CEO of Bennett Carroll Solicitors. If I'm wanting to make an offer on a property, how would I go about doing that?
Okay, well, assuming that there's an agent involved, you would contact the agent. Presumably you've done a fair amount of homework and you know this is the property, you've got a fair idea of the asking price or the market value, and you've decided what your number's going to be. First thing to do is to organise a contract to look at. The agent will usually prepare that as part of their engagement to sell the property. Occasionally where it's say a specialised property or where there's no agent involved, a solicitor for the seller will prepare it. It is open to you as a buyer to prepare your own, but it's generally not done, apart from the fact that it costs you to have that done. It's generally part of the package that the agent will do. So the agent will produce a contract for you to look at. Generally they like to put it underneath your nose and hand you a pen and have you sign it straight away, but it's essential that you look very, very carefully at the contents of that document.
Okay, so is there an example at the encumbrances?
Well, not just that. There is what's called an item schedule, so all of the variables, the buyer, seller, the description of the property. It does still happen that you wind up almost accidentally buying the property next door. It's happened quite recently, so check the description. Encumbrances particularly, but all of the variables, things like the purchase price, the deposit, the completion date, building, pest and finance conditions, occasionally due diligence clause where there's something that that doesn't fit in that building, pest and finance mode. So there might be special conditions to do with the property being subject to the sale of another property, for example. It's quite common to have a chain of properties where I'm buying but I have to sell my property first, and the people that are buying my property are selling their property, and you can often have a chain of events that are all linked up. So all of those variables in the item schedule are absolutely essential, and you've got to be careful that they're right.
Okay. Now, is there anything in particular I should keep an eye on with the conditions, like building and pest or finance?
Yes. Building, pest and finance are the standard three subject to clauses. But be particularly careful of undercutting those. There is a bit of a trend for agents to say to buyers, look, if you do a really short building, pest and finance clause, you can always extend it if you need to. The idea being that you're looking more attractive to the seller because you're going to be organised and quick and the whole thing's going to be short. But if you want an extension of that condition, you need the consent of the seller, and the seller may in fact want to extract other concessions out of you, things like penalty interest or a change in the purchase price. So try and be realistic about how quickly those things can be done. Obviously try and be as organised as you can with your finance so that that's as prepared as it can be, and that will keep those time frames short anyway.
Okay. Now, if the property I'm looking to buy has a pool, what should I be aware of?
Be aware that in Queensland now pool certificates are required, and it is up to the vendor to provide that certificate for you. Regardless of that, go and have your solicitor check what the status of the pool on the site is. We've got transitional provisions for the legislation isn't that old, and it's absolutely essential that you have somebody who understands those rules go and check what the status of that pool is and make sure that it's in order, because when you come to sell the property, you want to make sure that you haven't inherited any kind of problems from the previous owner who didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Okay. So now that I've got everything all signed up, I've made my offer, the seller comes back with a counter offer. How does that work?
Okay, so in Queensland, all the parties sign one contract. Now in some other states they'll sign counterpart contracts and exchange them, but in Queensland it's all done on one document. So the seller will look at your contract and will either reject it and say, no, I'm not selling for that price, or will sign it and say, yes, okay, let's go, in which case at that stage you have a fully signed and bound contract, or will, in many cases, initial changes to it, change the price, change the deposit, change the completion date, and then we'll turn that into a counter offer to come back to you. So you may get the contract back with a different price on it, with the seller's initials next to it. And it's open to you then to initial that change, which then accepts the new price and makes the contract complete, or perhaps to cross out that price and write a third price in and put your initials next to it. And it's quite common to see contracts that have 4, 5 and 6 prices written one above the other, or initials on where the parties have been going backwards and forwards. So that's generally how the counter offer process works. Once you have a contract that has all of the initials on it, then it's enforceable and that's complete.
Okay, and that's when my cooling off period starts?
That's when the cooling off period starts, and that's when some of your obligations kick off. For example, a lot of people don't realise that once that contract's signed, you as the buyer are taking the risk of the property. So if the building burns down the next day, though you still have building pest finance and cooling off period, that property is at your risk, and it's essential that as soon as you possibly can, after the contract is signed, that you get some insurance cover on the property. You will usually be able to find a way to escape from having to purchase a charred wreck on a vacant block of land, but insurance is a very important issue early in that stage. Most people don't realise they've got to have that cover straight away.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, Guy. Where can we find some more information about you?
Seems to have information on our website, www.bcglaw.com, to do with this and a whole heap of other subjects. So jump into the website, and if the information you're looking for is not there, just hit the contact us button and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.